Sam Bush, mandolin, fiddle, vocals.
It picks up pretty well. So.
Yeah, okay, we'll keep leaning in like the guy. Thank you very much.
Now, one of the themes I've been writing a lot about over the years with bluegrass is if there is these two camps, the neo-traditional and the progressive, and you as a performer have always been able to straddle that line and be accepted by, I guess if there are two camps, accepted by both camps. What do you see right now when you look at where bluegrass is, and if the lines are getting blurry, is that a good or a bad thing?
Well, I mean, for me to be, I've always been a little hesitant to say what is and isn't bluegrass. Yeah. I mean, I know what I think bluegrass is, and I think one of the reasons our band can appeal, I'll have to divert it kind of over to the point of view that our band can have an appeal to bluegrass style audience as well as a progressive audience that's never heard bluegrass music before. So to a young rock and roll style audience, they see us come on, and we got banjo and acoustic guitar and mandolin and upright bass when we want it. Then, as far as they're concerned, no matter what we play, we're a bluegrass band.
Yeah.
You put us in a traditional bluegrass situation, and
like the backwoods of Southern Appalachia,
and we play like we normally play. We're a rock band to them. But as far as the lines being blurred, I mean, maybe that is true. But I mean, if you take a listen, for instance, to satellite radio on the Bluegrass channel on Sirius XM, it's a wide variety. But it's funny how what is now kind of accepted more as what bluegrass is amongst younger bands, and by younger I mean under 40 years old.
Yeah.
They sound a lot like newgrass music when Newgrass Revival and J.D. Crowe and the New South were playing it. And
well, it kind of feels like every generation we have this conversation of is bluegrass disappearing or what's coming in, because when you came up, and I interviewed John Cowan recently about it, and when you guys came up, you were considered maybe a threat to bluegrass, because you didn't look the part,
right?
But you were a man of the times, though.
Well, I mean, we were just we were just playing and dressing like people our age.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think one of the things is that people are aware how much we respect the bluegrass tradition, and even the band I have right now, when we play a bluegrass style number, it's bluegrass. Yeah. We know the bluegrass rules.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, and the musicians always treated us great in the 70s and 80s because they knew we loved bluegrass. But I mean, Bill Monroe himself didn't really expect everyone to play just like him. And
he was a rebel too at heart.
Totally. And I would have loved to have been standing around in 1946 when he hit the Grand Ole Opry with Flatt and Scruggs and Chubby Wise on the fiddle, and it was like that must have been like string band jazz to the audience that had only ever heard old time string bands like the Skillet Lickers and
like watching Chuck Berry
and the Possum Trotters and the Coon, and so I mean, I think what Monroe was playing, it must have been hillbilly jazz for those people.
What is your definition of bluegrass?
Well, I mean, the first definition I has is the music that Bill Monroe started in 1946 with Lester Flatt and Earl Scruggs and Chubby Wise, and later Benny Martin on the fiddle, and that is your classic style bluegrass ensemble. Yeah. And you can, as you and I are doing this interview, few walls away from us, Del McCurry.
He's on the short list of the real deal.
And Del,
some people could say.
Well, Del is a direct descendant of the Bluegrass Boys from 1963, of Bill's guitar player then, and Del's quintet is the classic bluegrass quintet that Monroe started, and Del McCurry himself nobody's done more for Bill Monroe's music in the last 30 years than Del McCurry. Yeah.
What do you see with like the IBMAs? Because some people think that it might be a little too rigid and not allowing there's a lot of bands that would love to be recognized or involved in it, but they end up circling around the entrance of the IBMAs rather than being in there. Like Green Sky or or even infamous
Well,
string dusters have been in there a little bit.
Yeah,
but
they include them. They include them in the Red Hat Amphitheater series, and my band has played it. So it's. I think bluegrass can be a sensitive issue for some people because, people want it to grow, but they also want it to stay their own little club that we're the only ones that are in it.
Yeah, exactly.
So for someone like me that's always made my living with a mandolin and a fiddle, it's just an interesting dance you do to try to accomplish that. But I mean, for me, of course, with IBMA and satellite radio and everything, that's done nothing but help all us musicians and give us more opportunities to work.
Well, there was two quotes I think of when I interviewed Larry Sparks. He had said to me, "You can drive any car you want as long as you stay within the lines." That said, when I interviewed Billy Strings yesterday, he had said, "Hey man, sometimes you want to eat the fresh grass on the other side of the fence." In terms of the boundaries of it. And then Grissman also had mentioned that the lines or whatever, people draw all kinds of different lines.
Well, I've always, as we look,
yeah.
there are two Fender mandolins on stands and my slide mandolin, and so I mean, I'm a boundary stretcher, obviously.
Is it weird that, in a good way, that being that boundary stretcher, now you're looked at as part of the pillars of the genre these days, rather than an outsider maybe trying to push the lines?
Oh, I mean, yeah. I mean, it's kind of an interesting situation to be in less than
the center of it now.
In less than a month, I'll be 65 years old, and I'm the establishment. But that's the great part. There's room for all of it. Dell's 75 or more, and so. It's great. It's a great time because we have youngsters that are playing progressively and doing their own thing, and you have youngsters that are doing their own thing and they're playing really traditionally. Yeah. So they're influenced by Dell.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a pretty healthy time. I saw Alison Krauss last night on a late night show. It might have been James Corden. At any rate, Alison Krauss was on, and it wasn't with Union Station. She's made a country record, and I'm sure, Allison, people, it's kind of like she's been great for the genre of bluegrass music. Of course. And has really influenced a lot of ladies to sing and play and get out there and do it. And now Allison's establishment, and I'm sure somebody might criticize her for what she did last night, when in fact I applaud her for. You just want to try different things.
Well, that's being an artist. You want to evolve. You want to try different avenues
throughout your career. And every time I make a new record, the first thing anyone ever asks is, "So, what's new? What's different about your new record?"
Yeah. So being 65, have you had any kind of rebirth in your thought process, or where's your mindset these days? I mean, it's not old by any means, but that's always one of those. But I mean, in essence, but that is a milestone year in a good way.
Hey, I'm just I'm just going through medical sign-ups right now. Got
the AARP card in the wallet.
You get that at age 50, dude. Oh, yeah. that comes when you're 50. I mean, just this last record I did, I co-wrote all the songs for the first time. And it was just it was one of those things I realized, hey, I'm old enough to make my own mistakes, and okay, so if nobody didn't like all these songs, fine. I enjoyed the process of co-writing them and doing that. So that was one step in a direction that I might not have gone. Well, definitely didn't go in 20 years ago.
What about with the music? Now that you've spent most of your life playing bluegrass and different forms of bluegrass, what does that music mean to you now that it's become such an enormous? I mean, it's a big part of your existence, obviously, but has there been this kind of reflection on how much that music's evolved in your own spirit?
Well,
or what it means to you these days?
I don't. As I sit and think about music, my mind is so occupied with all kinds of musical thoughts that I don't really, sit and think about bluegrass per se. But I listen to some of it every day. You know, but I also listen to blues music. I listen to the, you know, it's
that's
I go
the
through
thing.
different phases of listening.
Well, what
to
about being a
things.
performer? What has that been like for you nowadays that you've established this pretty incredible career, that you're out there performing and still creating and loving the life? Like,
Well, it's a good situation because we are accepted when we play progressively, and like our last song that we'll do tonight is Daryl Scott's Old Joe Clark, but we started strapping on our electric instruments in the middle of it like last year, and now it's full blown electric at the end.
Yeah.
And so for an audience, to me, like it's great for us to be able to, I mean, to play after Del McCoury.
Yeah.
If you play a bluegrass song, you better by God play it right.
Yeah,
because he just did. And we got Scott Vestal on the banjo. Nobody's better on bluegrass than him when he wants to knuckle down and do it, and he does. And and Steven's a wonderful bluegrass guitar player. So it's a comfort zone that when you play a bluegrass song, that it's a comforting feeling. It's like if that makes any sense. It's comforting, and it's a home to go to.
My last question is, you've been a performer most of your life, and you continue to create, and you interact with people on a daily basis, fans, people traveling, and you travel around the world. What has that taught you about what it means to be a human being?
Well, that we, us as musicians, we're really fortunate. We get to see the world. What we do is travel for a living, and what is our perk in life and our reward is to play.
Yeah, those 2 hours out of the
2 hours
24.
on stage.
Yeah.
That we get to play, and you get applause, you meet nice people, and we've at this age, and we have friends. I mean, I just saw a friend that I haven't seen for a number of years that I know from New York, and I walked in our bus, and there he was.
I ran into a friend of mine that was working a booth here from New York, and ricocheting all over.
So it's we are fortunate that we get to have friends all over the country and around the world as we've traveled, and you make friends, and we're really fortunate in that way that we get to see other people's point of view.
Yeah.
And I wish every American could leave the country and go to other places.
Yeah, or even
to get another
country,
perspective. Yeah. Right. For people in Kentucky to go to Colorado and see the mountains they've never seen.
I always feel like we have more in common as not only in our country but in the world than we're told,
Right. And as Americans, we do tend to think only about this country because it is a bunch of little countries in one.
Yeah.
There's a lot of difference between South Alabama and upper state New York and Pennsylvania, or go out to Idaho. And I was fortunate. I got to go to Idaho when I was 14.
I lived out there in right outside Jackson Hole and Driggs.
Yeah.
I think you played that Targhee Fest when I was there in 08.
Quite a few times we played it.
I mean,
So
just the people out there.
Yeah, so as musicians, we are fortunate that we get to make friends around the country, and it's a situation we've worked for, but it's a fortunate situation, and we are the fortunate ones.